Okay. Hi. There we go. Look, and we're even on time. How exciting is that? Okay, I don't see us on Facebook though, but let's just assume.
It's probably a bit of a delay.
Yeah, and it's probably trying to load while I'm talking to you here. All right, so anyways, hello. It's that Mercury in retrograde stuff. Startup tech is the bane of my current existence. So hello, everybody. Oh, yes, we are. There we are. We're live. Okay, and yes, there is a lag, but all right. Hello, everybody, all my Bodacity action heroes. It's Jannette Anderson from Bodacity, and I'm here with Diane Currie Sam, who is our Ask the Expert today. We're going to be talking about being a better story. So I'm just going to introduce Diane briefly, and then she's going to tell you all the juicy bits about herself. So I've known Diane for a long time. I think we met at where did we meet?
Was it Justin and Callan's event? Yeah, remember, we were roommates, my friend.
That's right. Okay, that was where I first met you. So we did courses together, and she managed to somehow sleep through my snoring. I don't know how that happened, but anyways. So we've known each other for many, many years because I took those courses a long time ago, 10 years ago, something. And Diane has gone through some iterations with her business, but she's been consistently working with people, helping them grow their business and find their voice. And whether it's through copywriting, storytelling, marketing, various different iterations, but she's really honed in on her brilliance and her expertise, which is helping people craft their story from the stage and in writing and really being a better story. So I am delighted to have you here today, Diane, and we're going to talk about that, how people can tell their story more compellingly, but also about your business and you and all sorts of juicy stuff. So that's the kind of formal intro. She's also an author of her book, which she'll tell you more about later on, and maybe even show if you've got show and tell. And has been a speaker, a coach, and a business owner for a long time. So that's the formal stuff. But why don't you fill us in on, are you a mom? How long have you been in business? What's your hobbies? Any deep, dark secrets you don't want us to know? Just
absolutely. Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Jannette. And I love talking to people I know. I interviewed a lot, but to be interviewed by someone who I'm fond of and I know well is a super blessing for me. So thank you. So you've got it all. I'm a storyteller, a writer. What I'm doing mainly is speech writing and training people on stage to tell their story verbally. And I call it the signature story. A lot of people talk about a signature speech, but at the beginning of the speech, there's a signature story. So how do you really center yourself in that story? What story are you going to tell? People come to me when they have an urge to get a message out, maybe an urge to have a story to tell, and they're like, how do I do it? How do I do it in a way that's really powerful and impactful, that I stay in my own power? It says exactly what I want to say. And I love it, as you can I hopefully hear from my voice, right?
Yes,
it's been a real, like you said, I've done a lot of different things. It's always been in the area of not corporate, but communications and in business and helping people to kind of get their message out. But I've really have honed in on that storytelling aspect of it, and from stage mainly. I just really love that verbal sharing. That old style, sitting around talking and telling stories, right?
Yeah.
And about me. Oh, my other favorite topic.
How much of that stems from being a mom, that you tell great stories to your kids too?
I've got two boys. They're 11 and 13 now. I remember you stayed at my house for a few days, and they were like these little guys, right? Well, can you believe it? They're growing up, yeah. And I think it stems from my family for sure. I mean, I one story I tell that like I said, I've always been in business and communications, done all kinds of things, from PR to technical writing to marketing and all that kind of stuff. And my business was, it was okay. I was making a good living, but it wasn't really going where I wanted it to go, right? So I was searching for that. Okay, do I need to specialize? What is it about me that's different from any other marketing communications person out there? And I was searching for that. And one day I Googled my last name, Currie, and up came the history of the family Currie. And the clan Currie were the poets and bards of Scotland. they were bards. They were storytellers. And that moment, like, you know, you talk about kind of a turning point. Like I looked at it and I just felt this, like a tingle going up my body. And I thought, that's what I want to be. I want to be a story like that. I've always been like that, right? My whole family's like that. My dad never read us books when we were kids. We'd all, I'm one of 5, we'd all gather in the bedroom at night and he'd act out stories. Like he would tell them, he'd act them out, right? Like, and it's that in our blood, that storytelling, right? Anyways, it's been with me my whole life. I always tell people I'm an award-winning speaker, and my first award was in kindergarten. You know, it was a poetry reciting contest. Yeah, and it was at the community. It wasn't just our school; it was a whole big community event. And I remember walking on stage and telling my story, and then I'm like, "Why are the other kids so nervous? I don't get this." So that's a little bit about me, right? Like,
you were born for that.
I really was. I think I was.
Yeah. Your family probably teases you about coming out of the womb speaking all the time and talking a lot.
Well, I think so, but you know what? I'm not the only one. Not the only one.
Exactly. All right. And so you've got 2 kids and you live in beautiful BC.
Yeah, in BC. It's in Coquitlam, which is a suburb of Vancouver, BC. And I've been a BC girl all my life. For those of you who know British Columbia, I grew up in Kamloops. But now live in just outside of Vancouver.
Cool. All right. And so tell us a little bit about your business. Who do you serve? Who's kind of your ideal client and how do you work with them?
So I work mainly, there's 2 types of people that tend to be attracted to me. One of what I call the people who have dropped out of corporate. So they're successful people. They've done a lot in their lives. You know, maybe they used to be vice president of a bank, or they've had some kind of achievement in their career and are now looking for kind of the second part of their career. So they want to do something different. Maybe they've launched a new business or they've gone into a whole new career and they don't know how to they want to get up and speak. They want to tell their story, launch this new project that they've got, the second half of their life or whatever they're doing, but they don't know how to do it. They often don't know how to match their corporate background to their new thing. Well, what's the story that kind of launches that? So I work with them on that, on getting them up on stage, really nailing down what it is that they want to say and how they want to say it. And the other people have been entrepreneurs for a while or are already business owners, and now are looking to become what I call an industry leader. So they may be already a business leader. So they've run a business, they've got kind of a level of expertise in entrepreneurships and they're running it. Now they want to do something. How do I get known as an industry leader? Well, you've got to have new ideas. You've got to have a new message. You've got to be invited to speak at associations and industry groups, and people have to see you as an industry leader. You really have to be going out and speaking. So it's the same type of work. It's like I'm helping them nail that story, helping them to like, and I'll do the initial story, but I'm also a speechwriter. Like I will help people write from the beginning to the end of a full keynote, and they need to get out.
And so how do you help them find that message? Because one of the things I know working with my clients is they have many, many things they want to say and not so much with the focus. So how do you help them hone in on their core message?
Well, there's a couple things I do. I go through who's your audience exercise, which I'm sure you've done some similar things with people. Like who is it, the exact person that you want to talk to? Because it's really hard to write a speech, because I do write with people, but when I don't know who I'm writing for. Like I'm going to talk to a bunch of teenagers differently than I'm going to talk to high-level corporate people, right? It's just a different tone, it's different languaging, different content. So I work them through an exercise when we figure out who the audience is. And I laugh because you talk about clients that are scattered. I get that. But I often tell them, look, like we'll write another speech later. Like, don't worry. We'll write, if you really want to talk to teenagers, we'll do that later. But we have to write one speech at a time, right? And this one is going to be for these people. So we figure out who the audience is. And then we figure out what your purpose behind this speech. Like they got to tell me, okay, what is it that you want from this speech? Because I'm very strategic, like as you know, right? I've got a lot of business background, so I can be fun and entertaining, but I don't write entertaining. I don't write things for the purpose of entertainment. They can be funny and entertaining and engaging, obviously, right? But there's always like, what is it that you want people to do at the end of the speech?
Exactly.
Do they, what is exactly your plan? Like, do you want them to buy from you? Are you just trying to get them to, even a politician, you get them to vote for you, get them to volunteer for your group, that get to donate to your cause? Like, what is it that because I can strategically position it. Yeah. And I'll know I figure this stuff out right from the beginning of your speech. I'm going to lay the groundwork for them to do what you want them to do. That's called persuasive communication. I've studied it for 25 years, right? But I need to know what the purpose of it is, what you're trying to do. Right. Okay, that's two. The third one that's really important is I'm digging out, like I always use this, I'm pulling something out of them, yeah, which is an emotional transition in your life. Okay. Like a turning point, a pivotal moment type of incident that not only means a lot to you, but it kind of demonstrates transformation. It has emotional elements to it. You really can feel it deeply. And it models the change that you want them to go through. So I pull that. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, cool. So 3 different things. You identify who the audience is that they're speaking to. And this goes for not only speaking, but all marketing. And one of the things that I see that so many people don't do is they blur. So they don't actually have a one-to-one conversation with one person. They just kind of spew out a bunch of information because they're not clear on who they're talking to. And all marketing is a one-to-one conversation. All speeches, doesn't matter how many people are in the audience, it's a one-to-one conversation. So they got to know who they're talking to. And then the second thing is, what's the purpose of the speech? So what are you trying to accomplish with your speech or your story? And the third thing is, how do you find that story that is about the transformational pivot point that really illustrates the point you want to make, or the key thing that you want them to take away, or that piece that's really significant, which is part of where I really have a hard time, because I have a lot of stories.
Yep.
And I don't know, some of the times it's like, how do you find the match between, because one story can make many points depending on where you take it, and how do you find the balance between the story that's right for that, what's too much sharing, what's not,
yeah.
How do you find the right story? So what's that process?
Ooh, I love this stuff, right? And thank you for that summary. This is why I love working with you, because you just nail stuff, right? You don't need to tell you things twice, Jannette. But yeah, how do you pick the right one? Well, again, a lot of it is to do with the audience, because it has to be in service of the audience is key, right? And in terms of the story, like, I want it to be real. I want it to be authentic. I want you to dig deep, right? But what I don't want you to do is dig too deep that you fall apart.
Yeah.
Right? That you kind of can't quite get the story out, and it gets too kind of dark and weird, and you can't hold your own power on that stage.
Yeah.
Like, and I really mean this authentic. Like, I don't give a damn if you cry.
Yeah.
If you've got snotty tears coming down your eyes, but if it's in the service of the audience and you're in connection with them, and you've set up the right context for that sharing to happen, then it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's when things are, so it's all, like, be real, be authentic, and be in service of the people in front of you. And sometimes this is where the art of storytelling and speech writing comes in. Like, you can study it in the structure. Like I said, it's persuasive communication. There's communication structures that I've studied and are important. But the art of it is exactly what you're describing there. Which story do I tell, and how do I tell it?
It's interesting that you say that, because I have a visceral experience of that. When I was in Toastmasters a long time ago, when was it? That would have been 2001. So it was not long after my mother had passed away, and I was in the competition, and I won at the district level with a story called My Mother's Shoes. And it was about my mom and the memory of her and her shoes and so forth and so on.
Yeah.
And it was very raw, because it was fairly recent, a few weeks before, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I got to the regional level, whatever, it was like 2 away from the national. And I told the story, And even though I told it the same way, and even though I was still, present and so forth, at that level, I got dinged for it because they said it was still too raw, still too new, still not processed enough, and so made the audience uncomfortable because it was too emotional for the audience, which was very interesting because it was emotional for the audience in the previous thing. So it really is a lot about knowing the audience, and also I was probably just not as grounded that day in the telling of the story.
That's it. It's knowing yourself, right? Like, and who the audience, what the situation is, and are you ready? Like, there's a story about because my son was born prematurely, and it was a real emotional time for me when we didn't know whether he was going to live or die. And he's 13 years old. And I can only now tell that story on stage. 13 years. Like, even talking about it now, I can feel this energy in my heart. Okay. Because it was a very emotional time for me. And I'm going like this because my heart was always on the edge for months. Right. So anyways, my point is, it took me 13 years. Yeah. Because I knew I wasn't ready to tell that one. Right. Yeah. So I don't push people where they don't want to go. On the other hand, I can spot something fake as well. And I don't mean this in a mean-spirited way, because we all try to hide things, right? We're human beings, right? Yeah. But there's that kind of pushing yourself too far forward, right? Like making yourself appear to be bigger than you are, or sort of ego-based storytelling, that I'm able to say, hey, tell it more real. Like, don't distance yourself from it. Don't tell us as if you're lecturing to us. Like, bring it down into talking to me, like you said, making an individual connection to me as a person, right? So, boy, we're getting deep here, Jannette.
Exactly. And we all know speakers who, tell their stories and cry on command on this word, not that word, and so forth. And that's not storytelling. That, in my mind, that is actually
theatrical.
It's theater. Yeah. Exactly. Which has its place and can be very, and audiences know when it is that.
Oh, for sure. There's times where I'm acting out a story and I'm doing this on the stage. It's very theatrical and fun and whatever, right? Has its place. Yeah. But it's not storytelling, right? It's not what I'm focused on, right?
Well, and there's a difference between, I think, storytelling and theatrics, and even stuff that we repeat because we all have the same, and repeat it over and over. And being present with people and versus using it inauthentically as a manipulation or as a technique or as a whatever. I think it can really, speaking, can be a means to an end, but it also has to include that being with them, not doing it to them.
Yeah, right? There's so much psychology involved. Like I do these weekend workshops. I just did one in Vancouver area. I'm going to do another one in Kelowna in March, and then another one. Anyways, I do them, and I get people together in a small group, and this is what we focus on. And there's people, always heart-centered people. Those are the type of people that tend to be attracted to me, anyways. And I've had the whole gamut of people who are theatrical, and I've said, "Man, you're really good. You obviously have a theater background, and you can be expressive, but this isn't theater." Move it down, talk to us, tell us, oh my God, then the tears flow, right? Now when they have to really embody it and tell it, as opposed to, because you can pull yourself emotionally back and just think, well, I'm just an actor. I'm just going to act this out. I don't have to really feel it when I'm talking to people. Or I get the opposite where it's I call it the techie teller, right? They're very technical. They're very kind of the professors here to teach us. And then I'll say to that person, I love your content, but we're here to tell stories. You're not a teacher in this moment. Let's move you down into tell us why you're passionate about this topic, right? So I get the two extremes.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's kind of relate this to our whys, because one of the things that I work with people a lot on, and we're going to put a program out in the new year, is clarifying your 3 whys. Why you do what you do. Why do I need you? And why do I need what you have? All 3 of those are versions of stories that we tell about who we are and who our value and our products and services. But I think one of the big things most entrepreneurs don't clarify is their why they do what they do. So, why you're so passionate about storytelling. Yes, it's part of your history, but two things. One, can you tell us what's kind of your why? Why does this drive you so much to help people communicate, to help them really connect through their stories? Where did that real deep passion come from? And then kind of the second part of that question is, how does your storytelling pull or tie in with people identifying their whys? Because not everybody wants to speak from the stage necessarily, but everybody who's an entrepreneur needs to know their why, and that's a story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's your why, and then how do they tap into their why, their story?
Well, my why is like to go a little deeper, is because I've spent a lot of my life not talking about what I want to talk about, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to say I had a completely repressed childhood, but it was somewhat repressed, right? Like I was a very outgoing, kind of expressive person, and I remember often being told, like, Diane, that's too much, slow it down, like tone it down, you're too this. Like there was a lot of that in the messaging that I got. You know, that whole children should be seen and not heard kind of message that I got my whole life. I think a lot of women's voices have been silenced. I think mine as well. Things that I was, you know, not allowed to express myself lots of stories like that about being told to, okay, that's enough, or don't, you know, don't say that, or that's a bit too edgy. Like, could you edit that out? Or could you, like, lots of those messages, see? And I think it caused me a lot of problems in my earlier years, right? I never really expressed what I felt about things. I didn't want to rock the boat. I was told don't make someone angry, or don't make, so it all just, so you see you shaking your head. A lot of women feel this way, right? It just got stuck there for years. Absolutely. Right? So it is, I'm healing myself, frankly, right? Like, so I have a real passion for people who've been told to keep it quiet. Because I was told that, right? So that's my why on a real deeper level. And then what was the second question? How do other people find their whys? Or
yeah, and thank you for sharing that. And I think all of our whys are our journey to heal what it is that we came here to heal, and where you know our gaps are, and so forth. So, or our longing. It's really, our whys are connected to our deepest longing. And so for entrepreneurs, perhaps, maybe they're speaking from stage, maybe they're not, how do they kind of clarify their why, and how does that tie into story?
Well, and it's relating to what I've shared here, and what you very eloquently called, right? But I call it a wound, right? Yeah. There's something wounded, right? There was some kind of loss. There was something that held you back. It's got this, what I'm looking for when I'm kind of exploring people's stories is something that, and I'm going to use my hands here, that held you in, that kind of wounded you a little bit, that kept you down. Mm-hmm. And the story is about you coming up and expanding. So that's the sort of energy behind it. Something held you back, something closed you in, something entrapped you in some way, and that you got out of it. Is the energy, the emotional energy that happens. And often what it was that kind of trapped you and kept you closed in is what the story is going to be, is what you're trying to heal in the world, right? So for me, I talked about being told, you know, that's a bit too much, and quiet it down, don't say that, you're too that, like that kind of thing. It held me in. It held me in to be somebody, trying to be somebody that I wasn't. And now I try to help people. So I've had people who have had all sorts of wounding, right? That they were abused, or they were told not to do certain things, or they were, you know, had like all kinds of things. So what was it that held that back? If you look at the kind of traditional storytelling, it's the wounded healer, right? Right. It's the transformational story. It's the epic journey of what did you have to overcome? What did you face? Like when did you face the metaphorical death that you had to, you know, maybe it was a divorce, maybe it was who knows, an illness, or maybe you got fired from a job that you thought you were great, right? You know, like what was it that you metaphorically had to face, and how did you get out of it?
Right. Yeah, I love that. And I think part of the challenge is so many of us don't want to don't think that that's what people care about. But it is really, I mean, you know, Simon Sinek's famous for saying people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so clarifying our story and the why we do what we do is so critical to being able to attract the people who resonate with that story, to attract the people who are working on that or who just get that you get them in that way. So because they don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so that's why I was really excited about having you come and talk about stories and finding your story and crafting it and so forth, because it ties in so much with your basic marketing of who you are and why you do what you do. Because that's what works now. It's not about a bunch of features and the what you do. No one cares what you do.
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, storytelling has been called the currency of human emotion, and the exchange of meaning. So it's the exchange of, you know, that's why when we started, we kind of laughed about, yeah, we were roommates and, you know, all this stuff, because it's the story of who we are and why we're talking here, right? That it's not just, well, I am Jannette Anderson and I am Diane Currie and we are going to do the following, right? It's just not going to work, right? Like,
exactly. Okay. So when people are, for entrepreneurs who are looking to find their why or their story and use that in their marketing, etc., or use that in their communications with their clients, is there any other components that you would recommend besides the identify the audience and the purpose of the story and what's that pivotal point? How else can they tie that story, or what else do they need to draw out to really clarify their why story?
Well, I mean, there's lots. That's a big question, right? Because that initial story could lead to others. What we're looking for is kind of a theme in your life, like that could, because let's say I write a speech, right? There's that initial story that kind of hooks people. Oh, that's why she's doing it. But that's not the end of storytelling. There's all kinds of, there's probably going to be a half dozen other stories in that 1 hour speech, right? There's that. And then there's the actual marketing, the stuff that you're talking about as an entrepreneur, right? Well, maybe you've got some really good client stories that, you know, the whole standard testimonials, like what it was like to work with you and what transformations other people had with you. And then there's team stories, like who's your team about and why you guys work together and why. So there's why throughout the entire. But what we're looking for is sort of a theme that's run through all your business, right? Maybe you guys, maybe it's a theme of transformation. Maybe it's a sort of a Cinderella type theme where it's rags to riches all the time. It's like we were here and now we're here. Like here's, you know, that's really like, it can be a whole strategic. You can look into big strategic storytelling. Looking at your business as a series of stories, super important, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just the beginning.
Exactly. I know there's so much to this, and I could go on talking to you for like hours, but we're running out of time. So I just want to ask you a couple more quick questions.
Sure.
One of the things that we talk about a lot is supporting women in, you know, building their bold businesses and their bold lives, and that often takes a leap. So a leap from where they were to where they want to be. But it takes that moment of courage to be able to step out and play that bigger game, or to step up and claim what it is you want to be or do or have. So for you, you've been talking about claiming your story and being heard, really stepping out and being heard. For you, do you remember what that leap was for you to be able to claim the, yes, not only am I going to own my voice, but I'm going to support other people in owning theirs?
Well, I've had a series of leaps in my business for the last 25, 30 years. But the one that I think I want to talk about that's really close to me is I recently did in October my own live event. And for a lot of years, I was either teaching other people's content. I've been a workshop leader. I've been a guest speaker. I've been at other people's events. I've spoken all over the world, tons of different times. But it was always at someone else's live event, right? I was flown in as the guest speaker. I was doing my little sub workshop within their umbrella, right? And I had done sort of some small workshops myself, but I'd never done a full. And I just one day, like I said, damn it, I'm going to just do it. And, my fear was losing money. Like, oh, I got to book the hotel. What if I don't sell enough? Like, I'm being honest, right? I'm a businesswoman, and you never know with these things, right? You got to take a risk. And I think for me, it was like turning 50.
Yeah.
That was another thing. It was my 50th birthday this year. And I was like, I can't not do this.
Right.
I can't not do this, and screw it, I'm going to do it. And I had this feeling like, that was the other thing. Cause it's funny because you hedge your bets sometimes with things like that in business. Like you sort of invest in something, but if I don't sell enough by such and such a date, I'll pull out. Right. And I just said to myself, I don't care. This event is going on. I will get enough people there. Don't even tell me the cancel dates. I was talking to my event producer. She negotiates all the contracts at the hotel. And I said, don't even tell me. They always have that date where if you don't get enough, you could pull out of the contract. And I'm like, don't even tell me what that date is, because this event is come hell or high water. This event is going on. So that was a leap for me, is just, it's happening.
Yes.
And it was super successful. I had people there. They loved it. I just was on a high. Like it was,
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So you went all in poker speak, and committed 100% and decided essentially, fuck it, I'm doing this. So you literally and financially and emotionally took a leap, and you committed 100%. Because I think sometimes, you can't cross a chasm in two little baby steps. You gotta take a running leap for it, and that takes the commitment that you're talking about. So congratulations, that's awesome. Yes, that's a big thing. All right, so how can they find more about you and your products and your book, and how do they access you, and where do they go?
Well, my website is beabetterstory.com. So that's beabetterstory.com. They can go there and look around, and there's a contact page if they want to contact me directly. What I also recommend is that they download my ebook, and that's beabetterstory.com/ebook.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward. It's called Stop Staring at a Blank Page, How to Write a Speech That Will Change You, Change the World, and Attract Clients Like Honey.
I love it.
So it's got a lot of sort of how-to, very practical, but a few obviously stories thrown in. And it's really, if you are wanting to get a message out, it's a great book for you to go grab.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I'm going to go get that right now because I'm in the process of writing a new keynote for 2018. So
nice.
We will be talking.
Nice. Awesome.
And what else in terms of, you mentioned workshops. Are there workshop dates on your website?
Yes. They should be up on the website, but they will be shortly. Beabetterstory.com. If you go to /goldenstory, and I'll post it under this posting as well, like where the workshops are and the various dates. I would love Jannette, now I'd love to have you come, right? Like they're amazing, amazing, powerful, transformational events, just all talking about what we've talked about here. Awesome.
All right. And can people hire you to work one-to-one or to coach them?
Yes, I have that. Absolutely. They can contact me through the website.
Okay.
And I can help. I write their speeches. I coach people, all that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, my dear, and for your support and sharing your valuable expertise. And my hope is that people got inspired about telling their story, because a lot of times we as women, we think, no one wants to hear about me. And that's by and large, that's true. No one really cares about us until they know that they care about us and we care about them, and there is a connection. And one of the fastest ways to create a connection like that is to use stories wisely and well. So thank you for supporting so many people in doing that, and for being here, and and hopefully all of the tech works.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Take care.
I appreciate your time, and I'll see you soon. Perhaps at one of your workshops soon in the location near us. Okay, take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye. All right, so let's see if the end broadcast works. I don't know.